On today's show, we go retro, back in time, kind of like Marty McFly, pulling out the stops, and we're talking value. We're drinking rich for less. I think you get what I'm going with this. Flavor Town, here we come. And as we do it all the time now, folks, I mean, it's a no-brainer. Let's drink some whiskey. Welcome to Whiskey Whiskey. Whiskey Chaser Brian, Christy's bar Kilkenny. Hope you're keeping well on this Wednesday. Right, so this is not a brand new release, and I did want to personally do this whiskey for a good while now. I kept putting it off because, I wasn't entirely sure where to try and fit it in, or was I going to do many single malts, and it just all kind of came too much and I put it off. Now I'm just like, F it. Let's do what we want to do and stop putting things on the long finger. Also, I put this off because we kind of misplaced the bottle through absolutely no fault of our own, and I accidentally lost my bottle somewhere. I still can't find it. So this is the Retronaut 17-year-old single malt from Blackwater Distillery. I'm not entirely sure, did you catch the reference at the beginning of the video, but I did mention going back in time. And the Urban Dictionary's definition of a retronaut is one who travels back in time or is stuck in a time period, or even one that doesn't change with the times. That's clearly not me, might be this whiskey though. Now, I'm not entirely sure how they came up with the name here, but I'm guessing it has a lot to do with the older style single malts and flavors that used to be produced. Anyone want to verify that for me? Because I'm pulling that one out of my, and it's a complete guess. Or it could have been the fact that at the time of this release, Blackwater Distillery was heading in one direction, released this, and then thought, that's not what we want to do at all, and went an entirely different route or direction. Again, this is me guessing, but they are intelligent guesses. And as I explain more, well, then this might begin to make sense a little bit better. Let's dive in, shall we? I did a little video a long time ago when I was first starting out doing these videos. It was a little cringy, I guess. The video and style wasn't as polished as it is now, but nonetheless, I did a video on the Velvet Cap Irish whiskey, which you can find a card for over here. And on said video, I went into a little bit about the distillery and the founders. You should watch this space over the coming months. Trust me. So in typical fashion, not going to dive a whole lot into the distillery, but the main man behind it is Peter Mulryan, who's also the name behind the famous Irish whiskey book, The Whiskies of Ireland. Blackwater Distillery is his baby, along with a few other investors. Now, Peter is the type of person that doesn't hold back what he wants to say. And I say that because I've read some of his blogs that he writes on the distillery's website, which, of course, as always, I will leave a link to down below. And he says what he feels. You gotta respect that in this day and age, really. The distillery itself is also a founding member of the Irish Whiskey Guild, which was set up in late 2020 and wants to help support independent whiskey producers with compliance and requirements for Irish whiskey production. Little bit of contention around that whole area there. Now, if you do get a chance, do check out the blog on the website. Again, I'm gonna leave that link down below for you to click through. So the Retronaut, released in 2017 with about 1,160 bottles up for sale, and shockingly, I say this with the greatest surprise, it's still available. And I don't know how, I don't know why, but it can still be got. I checked the distillery's website as I thought they still had some up for sale, but they don't, they did a while ago. It is still available on some select online retailers. I remember picking it up for about €100 a while back, so expect that somewhere in or around that price range. I have heard a few varying reviews on this. I haven't had it myself in, 2 years I'd say, but I remember being a huge fan of it. It's no secret, everyone knows that I love single malt whiskey, and I remember this being quite juicy and oily. This was released in 2017 to mark the commencement on the building of Blackwater's new distillery in Ballyduff, County Waterford. Again, 1,160 bottles, double distilled, 100% ex-bourbon, bottled at 46 ABV, 17-year-old single malt Irish whiskey, spelt without the E. Old school. An interesting note about this release is that it was something that was meant to be ongoing, as in there was the idea of the Retronaut was to bottle short runs of limited older whiskies. However, as it turns out, Blackwater weren't the only kids on the block doing this. So in 2018, they pulled back on the idea and had a rethink. These bottles were initially a part of the Curator series. And finally, before we taste this, it has won a gold medal at the 2018 Irish Whiskey Awards for the best Irish single malt 13 years and older. I think I said it was a gold medal. Anyway, let's drink, shall we? As I always say at this part of the video, if you haven't already yet, please consider subscribing, clicking the notifications bell, and don't forget to leave a thumbs up if you like this video at the end. Get involved, comment. I've got a couple of big videos coming up in the next couple of weeks. Let's get interactive. Be sure to follow me as well on Instagram. All the links for everything is down below. All right, so we have it in the glass now. Again, Retronaut, 17-year-old single malt Irish whiskey, double distilled, exclusively ex-bourbon barrels. This is bottle number 479 of 1160. Now, the nose is quite pleasant. There's an undeniable single malt nose of those apples and pears that I always seem to get. Lovely sweet honey with a light hit of bananas, but the banana is kind of at the back. There's almost like a lovely earthy kind of tobacco note, as well as kind of, you're certainly getting a little bit of a hit from the bourbon barrels. Definitely the bourbon barrels at the very back. Again, there's just this kind of slight, it's the first kind of time I got it, is a slight hit. Very, very slight, and I hope I'm not wrong in this, but a touch of menthol at the end. Weird, but refreshing. Very, very juicy kind of a nose to it. Let's have a little sip. Let's launch it. Wow. Honey, vanilla, your apples. It's very thick, very oily. You're certainly getting the oak coming through along with some of the spicy characters. Oh, it's quite good. Mouth coating. Honey, vanilla, apples really shining through, but yeah. There's a slight touch of the bitter side, which is kind of throwing off the end of it there a touch. Very slightly. Nonetheless, it is quite pleasant. Oh, finish. Spice hangs around quite a bit. You're still getting those lovely honey notes, vanilla notes. Again, with the mouth coating, oily, sweet. It's kind of a medium finish. It's not very, very long. Woody, a touch of, I would say that bitterness is still there, so a touch kind of off balance with the bitterness on the palate. Just a touch, and that's just like kind of dissecting it now, but nonetheless, very, very good, very oily, very sweet, very pleasant, very drinkable, very Moorish. So yeah, my thoughts. It's a solid dram, certainly a drinker. One I am happy to have on my shelf again if I do decide to buy another bottle. As I said, my other one has gone missing. If you wanted to pull it apart and dissect the life out of it, you'd have hang-ups about the bitter component, throwing it off just ever so slightly, but to me it's very minimal and doesn't take away too much from the quality. Really juicy, really oily, old. I don't see how you could not like this, if I'm completely honest. And in being even more honest, it's a shame that this hasn't continued. And I mean, these type of releases haven't continued. I get that the market was becoming saturated and totally understand that, but I like to see whiskeys that distillery owners or distillers themselves pick as a release. I always find that interesting to see. Right, so this whiskey is of course here in Christie's, and we are open this coming 7th of June. So I hope to see a few heads down here. I know where I'm gonna be at and I know what I'll be doing. And it makes me question this next week's video, if I'm honest. I'm gonna have to get it done sooner rather than later if we're gonna be open. I can't be in here doing it here. So once again, thanks to the lads at Christie's for the sample, and I'll see you all next week. Stay safe, chase her out. Sláinte.